Jesus Christ, that hurt. I'm still got a headache.
Sorry about me cussing Jesse like a dog, but fuck it, I did. That's how it is.
Thomas Cagle got ran out of Auburn because of his wife. His wife was sleeping around with some of the players and just being a complete whore around town.
You fucking punk-ass bitch!
The Pac-12 will have 5 or 6 teams in the top 25.
Dude, whatever you're smoking, buy a ton of it.
I'm the greatest smack talker on the fucking face of the earth right now.
You fucking punk-ass bitch!
Then it makes me look like I got owned or something.
You fucking punk-ass bitch! You fucking punk-ass bitch!
I just can't believe y'all put a statue of this guy already at your campus.
I'm like Shaun and Daniel. I'm burying my goddamn money in mason jars, motherfucker.
And welcome to another galvanizing edition of Smacking Off, the podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Madden. I'm joined with my co-host and lovely producer, Mr. Doug Phillips. Doug, how are you this evening?
Wonderful, wonderful.
It's hate week. Woo! Hate week. Rivalry week. And we've got more than a few to talk about. Of course, we're going to have our ongoing square table discussion about the CFP and where the committee has chosen its, chosen few. We've also got a epic Iron Bowl smack off with our dear friend Shaun Cagle and Barner by the name of Keith Dodd. Should be a very interesting time. We've also got a Michigan-Ohio State smack off, because what rivalry week would be complete without a Michigan-Ohio State?
Yeah, bad game this year, but definitely still one of the premier.
It's not a horrible game, but certainly doesn't have national
It's not what it typically is.
Yeah, it doesn't really have national championship implications tied to this one, which is kind of the way both of those programs are shaping out. Well, one thing that I just can't help but ask: how much time do we give Urban Meyer before he finally bows out at Ohio State? Now, bear in mind that it's not like they've had a complete collapse this season, but they have had some very spectacular losses over the past couple of years. Of course, the CFP loss to Clemson, which is still just completely inexplicable. And, of course, the sizable margin by which they lost to Oklahoma this year at home.
Mm-hmm. And they're not through. They've still got a really tough game. I mean, I think they beat Michigan, but Wisconsin's not going to be a given.
Yeah, this is very true. And, again, that Michigan game is not a gimme.
No.
Michigan has not looked super spectacular all season long, but they do play some good defense.
And they are playing in Ann Arbor, too, so that's
Ohio State's had some serious trouble in a few spots. I just mentioned that Oklahoma game, which was not near as close as that final score suggests. But anyways, we've got plenty to talk about tonight. So, and also too, we've got a brand new smacker that's going to do our guest picks tonight. Bob Arthur, Kentucky fan. He's also a fan of Louisville. No, he's not.
No, but he is a Miami fan too, so he can double as
he definitely is a Miami fan, yeah. And
he loves Kentucky. I think he's more of a Kentucky basketball fan, and really he's interested in the football, but he's definitely
and the football's been worth. We've mentioned throughout the whole entire season what is kind of a small surprise that a 8-win Kentucky team now.
Yeah.
So that's not something that we see very often in our lifetime.
No. 1984 is the last time that anything like this has happened.
So there you have it. That's our broadcast for the evening. I can't wait personally myself, and I hope that you can't either. Stay tuned, and remember, fuck your team.
Visit our Facebook pages, Smacking Off the Podcast fan page and Smacking Off the Podcast group page, facebook.com/group/smackoff, facebook.com/smackologists.
We are joined on Smacking Off with our dear friends Alex Bryan, who is no stranger to the show. Alex, how are you tonight?
I'm amazing. How about you?
I can't complain a single bit. And we also have Jason Williams, who's brand new to the show. Jason, how are you this evening?
Oh, not too bad. I'm just waiting to see how this works out and everything.
Let's see how this works out. We are going to talk about some Buckeyes Wolverines. Rivalry week is here. It's all week long. Let's do it.
Typically a bigger game than this year.
Yeah, it's not really that big of a game this year, but it's still, still has.
It is always a big game. It is all these teams can be 0-11, and it's still a big game.
It's because it's the game. It's the game of the week.
The game.
The game. Well, let's talk about the game then. Again, we were talking to two fellas from Alabama. We're done at SEC Hicks, so we don't know what the fuck's going on. Give us a business. Do you expect Urban Meyer to have a heart attack in the press conference before or after? I'm sorry, man. I'm not letting that one go.
Why would he have a heart attack if he's going to win?
Well, this is true, but I mean, he does have a weak heart. I mean, being excited from a big win like that may put him out too. I mean, he's fucked either way if you think about it.
Listen, two things. A, it depends on which quarterback the Wolverines want to put out on the field.
That is true.
Very true.
And B, it matters which Ohio State team shows up. Because unfortunately, it seems at least a couple times this year, a different team wants to show up that doesn't want to run the fucking ball because our coaches have their head up their ass. And then once we do that, we're really predictable and then we get beat like we did at Iowa. The good Buckeyes show up that beat little brother 45-3. It's going to be a long day in Ann Arbor for the Wolverines. If the weak Ohio State shows up, well, I mean, anything goes. But honestly, I hope Peter starts. I would love to break him in this rivalry early with a big fat L. But I think it's going to be O'Korn. And, I mean, he hasn't got to lose to us yet either, so I guess it's good either way. But, I mean, O'Korn will just be a better option for us. I mean, he's pretty garbage. I hope it's O'Korn, yeah. Listen, I want Peters, but I hope it's O'Korn just because O'Korn is just going to make this 100 times easier than I hope.
Somebody just got a message. I think that's what that was.
Jason, rebut for us.
Well, right now, I think what it's going to be, I think if Peters ends up playing, and I think with what's going to be on our side is Ohio has no idea who to plan for. They can either go watch the tapes because right now they don't know, is it going to be Peters are playing and nobody's saying nothing until game day, which is going to be on our side. Yes, our offensive line has been struggling, but Evans has been picking it up.
What's home
on
field?
The right side.
Good.
What's that?
What's home field mean to you in this game? You think it makes a difference?
By the way, Ohio plays Buffalo this weekend. I don't know if you're talking about like the Bobcats or you're talking about us, but Ohio plays Buffalo this weekend.
Okay, here. Let me rephrase. I'm saying that the Suckeyes are gonna end up not playing. So that way you know that we're not talking about the Bobcats.
Oh, you can say fuck eyes on this broadcast. In fact, Fuckeyes is actually now in
never
my.
Played the Wolverines ever. Just want to throw that out there.
I don't. They don't want to. They don't want.
Listen, honestly though, I can never overlook this team. I mean, there's too much history there, and from a guy who didn't see the result 2 years ago happening, you just never know what's going to happen in this game. It means offensive line is pretty horrendous. I think we all know that by now. I think our D-line is going to have a pretty easy time pressuring whatever quarterback's back there. And as I've saw this year, if a team has a good D-line, take Iowa and Oklahoma. But I think they're going to have a field day. Whatever quarterback gets put in, he should start hitting himself on the turf now. Because that's what's going to happen all Saturday afternoon.
Now, I have to agree with Alex with the whole up and down thing. I agree. If the Ohio State, if the team that shows up plays Penn State, we're going to get murdered. I agree. But if the team that played Iowa comes to town, I think it's going to be the best day for us.
It's anybody's ballgame at that point.
You have no idea because they have really been all over the place. And for that being said, for a team that's not been it's not been a straight shot. Like they haven't been Clemson all year long. They haven't been the Bama. They haven't been that straight team that's been dominant every week. With that being said, I hope they don't, not that I'm a hater or nothing, but I hope they do not put Ohio State in the playoffs again, because I think the same thing's going to happen again. I don't think nobody's in there. Ohio State has nothing for neither of them.
And I think you raise a good point there, because I think the committee is definitely, as the season wears down, are going to be cognizant of that game. Not because Ohio State is still in the picture, because I think they're just right outside to where, it's going to be very difficult, if not really kind of damn near impossible, for them to show up in the Final Four at this point. But what I'm saying is that I think that game, because it was such a lopsided loss, the committee doesn't want to put those matchups together. Would you agree? Would you agree with that statement? As far as the matchups, where it's just going to be a complete blowout, and from the starting whistle to the final.
I would much rather, and I'm all about watching good games. I would much rather see Ohio State play another team that's just, like if Auburn gets knocked out, I would love to see Auburn and Ohio State. Or if Oklahoma gets knocked out, or a Notre Dame, or even a Florida, whoever gets knocked out, I would love to see Ohio State play somebody who's just close to the playoffs but gets knocked out.
Florida got knocked out a long time ago.
Yeah,
Florida's been straight out of the box there for quite some weeks.
Yep.
They have been straight up gone.
They've been pumping the shark.
Listen, I've been back and forth with my own fan base on this issue. On one hand, I can't say that I'm not worried. I can't say that I'm not worried, because, we haven't been consistent this year. We had that great stretch in the Penn State game. We started out horrible, but finished probably the best way we ever could have. And then we walk into Iowa, not even at night, but in mid-afternoon to evening, and we get straight dookied on. And now Iowa, since then, hasn't been able to put over 20 points. They've been under 20 points every game.
So, Alex, it's not that.
I would hate going to the playoffs again to have the same thing happen that did last year. But on the other hand, if our coaches can just stick with the game plan that works for once, I think we have a chance against anybody in the playoff. Will we get there? We'll see. Alabama has to take care of their business. Hopefully, Nick Saban. I just saw a stat today where his career against 9-win Auburn teams, he's lost every single one of them.
Yep.
That blows my mind. I did not know that. I hope he can reverse that trend, because for once in my life, I need Alabama to do something that favors us.
Right.
But will we make it? Who knows? At this point, I'm at a crossroads where if we make it, awesome. I hope we do something with it. But if we don't, hey, we did lose 2 games. One was a blowout.
Smacking Off invites you to join us on the podcast. If you have an opinion on an upcoming game, some commentary on your conference, or want to roll with one of your fellow smackers on air, hit us up. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages, email me at maddenshannon@toothfairy.com, or call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. And as always, fuck your team.
Let's say Clemson beats Miami, for example, and Alabama wins out. I hope they put Miami in just the same like they did with us over Penn State last year.
I do believe Miami
might not have that the resume that we did over Penn State last year, but at the same time, they'd be a one-loss team. Their only loss would be to Clemson. So put them in.
Ohio State has a good shot to get a good bounce from the Wisconsin game, though. So I don't think they're out of it.
Did he say one blowout? I thought there was 2.
Yes.
Listen, why is everybody calling Oklahoma a blowout?
It was.
We had the lead 13-10 in the third quarter. Yeah, they left some points out on the field in the first half, but we were able to stop. We were bending so far on defense, and then we finally just broke. Like, it was only a 15. Why are people calling a 15-point win a blowout? Since when? I even had Paul Giddings. He's a Clemson fan on some of these other pages. He said Oklahoma against Iowa State got blown out. That was a 7-point win. What is our definition of a blowout anymore?
It's not the same anymore because, probably a lot of people think that a 21 game is a blowout, but
I would say a 24 or 21 or 24 point win or more would be considered a blowout. Anything under that
well, and to be fair, I think that the blowout, particularly with the Ohio State Oklahoma game, was because there wasn't a equal balance of power throughout the whole entire game. There were points in the game where Oklahoma was just completely dominant on both sides of the ball. Now, to be fair, it wasn't a 60-minute performance in that fashion.
Oh, no doubt.
Ohio State was able to regain some ground, but there was just never any real sense of two very, very dominant teams that were definitely advertised coming into the game.
Trust me, I was at the game. I was completely shocked that it was only 13-10 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
I was like, we should both be, because I figured it would be some type of a shootout.
I thought it would be too, and I think that's probably where that perception comes from, is the fact that it wasn't a shootout and it wasn't a close, tight finish at the end, like say the Oklahoma State game was.
Well, the problem is, after they finally went ahead of us, I looked over to my dad and said, well, at this point, who knows if we're going to make a comeback here, because our offense just can't seem to find the end zone anymore. So, I mean, if you want to call, I get it, they carved up our defense. Like, don't get me wrong, they played great, especially in the second half. But a 15-point win is a blowout now? Is that really what it is? Like, well, I consider what I'm saying. Obviously, that's a 31-point loss.
It doesn't come down to just point totals anymore, though, particularly when you're talking about two teams of national prominence, with both of them in playoff contention talk at that point.
I don't think anybody. I think that the fact that nobody really expected Oklahoma to go there and win.
Yeah, and win in a convincing.
And so, since it was more than one score, since it was a 2-possession game, that's why people jumped on the whole.
I think everybody accepted what happened the year before. They just thought that, they're going to Ohio State. There's no way they're going to be able to do what happened last year, because Ohio State went in Oklahoma and took care of business. Yeah. Now they went to Ohio State, and now they see that, Mayfield is a big guy. So I thought that either they leave him open, or if he starts running on yards, I just don't see even though that's a second-year offensive line, I just don't think that they were going to, or a defensive line, they weren't going to be able to stop him. Either if the passing or if they let him run, he was going to run over him.
Our defensive line disappointed me that entire game, because I would always keep an eye on guys like Nick Bosa, and he was barely getting in the backfield to even touch Mayfield. So, like, I totally get why people think it would be a blowout. I just don't know why they're calling it one, because it's not like what we did to them last year on their field. From the very get-go, from the first kickoff, we were putting it to them. We were up like 14-0 or 21-0 before they even scored. So, I mean, we were dominating them all last year during that whole game. It took them to the third quarter to get a lead on us. So how the fuck is that a blowout? Listen, when I want to compare it to Penn State, and if there's other one-loss teams, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of it, if they're going to get bounced over us, Penn State last year had a loss to an unranked Pitt team and a blowout loss to your boys up in Ann Arbor. All right, we have a 15-point loss to a team that's in the playoffs right now and a blowout loss to Iowa. Not saying that's inexcusable, but it's a lot better than what Penn State had going for them last year.
Yeah, but that Iowa loss is looking worse and worse.
Blowout to Iowa, I understand it's totally bad. That's why it was better for us that Wisconsin just beat the Wolverines, because now we can get them potentially as a top 5 team undefeated.
Yeah.
And if we put the fucking work on them again, like we did 3 years ago, that only helps our case even more.
Okay, guys, let's get to the Michigan-Ohio State game for a second. I want to get a prediction out of both of you guys. Jason, you go first.
Well, it's going to come down to if Peters plays. And we ended up having players hurt. So I'm thinking if Peters plays, we had a couple of injuries that we're working through right now. So if it happens, I'm going to say maybe 21-24. But if O'Korn plays, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I do not, but you never know. It just depends on, I just call, Don Brown. I don't care, who your team is, but I'm telling you that man is the godfather of defense. So, I think that's what it's going to come down to, just like last year. The game came down to defense, and that's who won the game. This year, I think it's going to be the same. It's going to be close, and it's going to come down to defense.
24-21 Michigan. All right. Alex, what do you got?
I totally disagree. If Peters plays, 42-24. If O'Korn plays, we'll just say for the sake of the argument, for Woody's sake, we'll say 50-3.
Oh, shit.
Gotta go for 2 because he couldn't go for 3. Like, honestly, I expect us to have a field day on defense.
That blue can, is that Bud Light or Pepsi?
Say what?
Is that Bud Light or Pepsi?
The Pepsi.
Oh, because what you're talking about, I thought you were drunk or something for a minute there.
Listen. It's going to be the same type of thing of 2 years ago. I hate to tell you, Jason, and I see some money in my future because you're going to owe me. What was?
Do you already have a bet?
Oh, we got some money. Well, money's been exchanged on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's what we're talking about right there. That's big nuts.
Hey, right. I just lost $100 to an Oklahoma fan based off 2 bets. So it's going to be nice to get that money back.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, whoever's correct on this, we'll give you a shout out next week on the episode.
Oh,
but it's going to be a bloodbath in the worst of ways for them. Okay. Absolutely.
Fair enough. All right. Well, fellas, we do appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Go Blue.
Go bitches.
I mean, I don't consider myself a troll, really. I consider myself a
I don't know about, bro, not me, bro. I don't know about Justin.
Speak goddamn women and something, man. I'll beat your goddamn brains out.
Yeah, but it was still a horrible look for Oklahoma.
Dude, whatever you're smoking, buy a ton of it.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Auburn has to hold it for a field goal. They got the big fella in the backfield. They're going to play action on the rollout. McElroy. Touchdown up Church.
All right, and we're back on Smacking Off, and this is probably one of the most important rivalries here on our show because, again, Doug and myself, full disclosure, are Alabama fans. We have probably one of the biggest Iron Bowls we've had in a few years. We've had quite a few big ones over the past decade. Alabama against the Auburn Tigers at Auburn this weekend. We're joined with fellow Smackers, Mr. Keith Dodd. Keith, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
And I'm doing wonderful, man. He's representing the Auburn Tigers, and of course, our dear friend Shaun Cagle will be representing Alabama.
He's been a busy fellow tonight.
Shaun has been busy. Shaun's doing double duty tonight. Thank you, Shaun.
You're welcome.
Shaun has saved our ass tonight, big time. All right, fellas, let's start talking shit because this is the Iron Bowl. I don't want to hear any friends.
This is the 82nd
holding hands and none of that shit. Just throw that shit out the window. I want to hear some dog cussing. Let's do it.
Keith,
Yes, sir.
what Auburn team's going to show up? The one is going to beat Alabama like 38-24. That Auburn team.
No, that's not going to happen. I think you're. No, I think it's going to be the Mercer Auburn team.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Look, we had 5 turnovers that game. If we had been playing anybody else but Mercer, we would have lost that game. But that's a fluke. That's kind of a fluke thing. If you hang your hat on that, you're gonna be mistaken and very upset by the end of the night.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that Auburn fans can hang their head on Alabama too.
What's that?
Oh yeah,
we're undefeated. Strength of schedule is a big thing, but we're undefeated, and I think y'all's defense is going to get ate up.
Yeah, we also handled. Seems like Bama handled Mercer a little bit better than Auburn did, didn't they?
Okay, yeah, they did handle Mercer, but we handled a real team, Mississippi State. I mean, we didn't drag it out to the last 30 seconds to win the game.
Yeah, Mississippi State has, to be fair, has definitely progressed as the season's gone along. And Nick Fitzgerald is he's a baller, man. No two ways around it.
I thought they were close to taking him out of the game the other day. He was kind of trash there, wasn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
Who?
Fitzgerald.
Oh, Fitzgerald?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's an all right quarterback, but I don't know. I ain't really sold on him myself. I mean, he's okay.
He came in.
He kind of flips and flops.
He came into the season as a dark horse Heisman candidate, and yeah, seriously, there were a lot of people at the very beginning of the season that hey, this is the guy to look out for. This is the guy that's going to surprise everybody in the SEC and probably the nation. And I don't know, it just really didn't pan out.
No.
Well, here's my question. Everybody in the SEC was always talking, because I'd be like, "Hey, Stidham's good." Like I've seen the kid. He's pretty talented. Oh, he's a Big 12 reject. Well, how's that Big 12 reject look now, though?
He looks pretty damn good
now.
Yeah, I mean, he looks pretty
decent. He's definitely progressed throughout the season. I mean,
if he just
I wouldn't say Heisman watch or Heisman candidate, but if he would have started off the season like he is now, he'd definitely be in there.
Well, I propose that if Stidham had stayed in the Big 12 with their pussy-ass defenses, he'd probably have 6,000 yards right now. Like,
he probably would.
Rudolph and Baker Mayfield. So.
Guys,
Stidham had a lot of rust to knock off. I mean, he didn't play at all last year. So, I mean, we got him for potentially 3 years. So, he's only going to get better.
Yeah, he definitely has. He's progressed exponentially throughout the season. He really has.
All right, let's turn our attention to the Iron Bowl itself. What do you think the keys to victory are? I want to ask both of you guys this.
Keith, we'll start with you.
Excuse me?
The keys to victory?
Keys to victory for your Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, Auburn Tiger comes into the stadium. They're going to win, and this side they're going to
What do they have to do to make this happen?
Control the run and make Jalen Hurts beat him in the pocket, because that boy can't read coverage. He reads coverage like Floyd Mayweather reads cat in the hat. Like he's not gonna be able to beat. Are you
insinuating that Floyd Mayweather
arm.
Can't read cat in the hat, or he has some trouble reading cat in the hat? Wow. If we ever have him on the show, that's going to be the first question I ask him.
If he can read cat in the hat, or if he can read it all.
Yeah.
If
he can read cat in the hat, he should be able to read.
Yeah, that's college level.
Well, I mean, 50 Cent
in Mississippi.
Right.
50 Cent offered him like $25,000 if he could read a page of it.
Really?
Well, yeah, but Floyd Mayweather.
Oh yeah,
now, he makes a lot more than that.
Yeah, he don't need that.
That's chump change me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like McDonald's.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd make that chump change if I could read.
Were you saying you can't read, Keith?
Well,
I can read.
He is an Auburn fan. Come on now, hey, come on, let's keep this between the lines, fellas. All right,
Shaun, what's the keys to victory for Bama?
The keys to victory is to shut down the running game and to shut down their passing game. It's just a toss-up of what defense is going to show up for us Saturday. If they're well enough, if they've recovered enough. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the defense that showed up against Mercer can pull it off against Auburn. We got to have some of our key players in there. So we've got to keep the passing down.
Alabama has, 4 linebackers now, or is it 3? I think we're returning one, and there's a lot of speculation as to whether Minka Fitzpatrick's coming back, which a lot of folks think that they are. Alabama is going to try to put him in the game.
I feel like the keys to
he'll be in
victory
the
are
game.
about the same on both sides, really. I mean, for Bama, for me, it would be you're going to have to stop their run because Auburn establishes the run first.
Yes.
You're going to have to stop their run, and you're going to have to force Stidham to beat you. But, of course, Stidham may be able to do that. But that's really the only chance you got if you can't. I mean, if you can stop their run.
Yeah, it seems like Alabama does pretty well against the run last time I checked.
Not so much against Mississippi State. But
Perhaps.
No. That was terrible.
We are still number 2 in the nation though against Russian with Russian defense. So I'm feeling.
They're number 2 in the nation, but they've played nobody. The first game they have this season is coming up Saturday, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see what they're made of. We've had nothing but tough games mostly. I mean, yeah, we had our 2 out of conference cupcakes, but we also had Clemson.
The Mercer game was pretty tough too.
Yeah, Mercer game.
We had Clemson. We had number 1 Georgia. I mean, we've played real teams. Alabama, not so much, and maybe it's not their fault. It's not their fault that FSU's trash.
No.
But I mean, FSU is. They're trash.
Again, and I've said this so many times before, and since it's come up, I'm going to say it again. You know, if Alabama actually scheduled their games like 3 days before the beginning of the season, I could understand why this would be such a big deal. But if you go back and look at this same schedule, which is very, if you look at the SEC teams that they played this year, and look at where those SEC teams were, 2-3 years ago when these schedules were made up. It looks on paper, it looked like like one of our more tougher schedules that we've had in the past decade.
Especially opening with the game of the century. I mean, Alabama, Florida State was supposed to be a preview of the national championship game.
It was. They were both supposed to end up there playing each other again.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, and people say that, and I just laugh because last year, FSU was ranked, 3rd to begin the year? But who in their right mind thought that they had fixed that atrocious offensive line before this year started?
Let me tell you who didn't. I didn't.
Jesus Christ, that hurt. I'm still gonna have it.
I'm the greatest right now.
No, whoa. Okay, all right, fellas, time out. Come on, give me a second here. Fellas, Paul, just give me a second, man. Paul, give me a second. Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it's all about here at SmackDown.
Does not have the leg. And Chris Davis takes it to the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. He ran the missed field goal back.
I was trying to tell Seminole people before the game, I'm like, you people need to calm your asses down because they were acting like they had already won the game.
Yeah.
And
they were.
Y'all don't
they
want
were
none of
talking
this.
some trash.
And I was like, man, you've got no offensive line. It's going to be a real problem.
No.
It's going to be a real problem against Bama, especially as fast as Bama starts would say.
And it's been a huge problem for them all year long. It really has been.
There was times last year that I literally felt horrible for that Francois kid. Like I felt really bad for that guy. He was getting folded up like a lawn chair.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't go out last year. I'm seriously, he got demolished a few times.
He got sacked more than anybody in the. He got hit more than anybody in the country.
Well, not more than.
Yeah, but I mean the hits that he takes. I mean when he hits the ground, it looks like he's over with. It just dismantles him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like he's a kind of a slight kid anyway, and like I'm telling you, last year I was like, man, if they're going into this Bama game with that offensive line, if I was him, I call in sick. I swear to God.
Yeah, well, and again, you're right because we haven't seen him this entire season, and don't expect to.
No,
particularly not in FSU's bowl game that they're not going to be playing this year. So.
No, they're done. Their last stand was, I think, in that Clemson game, and I mean that was all they had left, and they still couldn't pull it out.
Didn't they reschedule Monroe for the end of the year?
I think they did, where they missed that one for the hurricane. Yeah.
But it's not going to help. I think
they might win that one.
I don't think they'll play it.
I mean, there's no need
They're,
to.
they're
really.
supposed to now. They actually rescheduled. How many losses do they have?
Saying like 6, isn't it?
Okay, so they could still technically go 6-6 with that game back.
They could possibly make a bowl. I mean, I don't know if they would put them in a bowl. I mean, it's just a toss up.
Right.
Oh, somebody would put them in a bowl. They've got so many. They got the Weed Eater Bowl. I mean, they got all kinds of just crazy bowls. Somebody will put them in a bowl.
Yeah, they'll be in a little whack bowl or something.
Okay, Keith.
Yeah.
Keith, I know you already made a prediction on this game, but we're going to give you another chance. See if you might reconsider on your score.
The only thing I'll reconsider on it, man, is that what the actual score will be. But it's going to be 13, maybe 14 points. It's going to be in that area, and Auburn's going to win it.
Okay. All right, Shaun.
I'm actually thinking he's right about the 13 points. Auburn's going to score a touchdown and 2 field goals. It's going to be 35-13.
Well, that'll be better than the performance they put forth last year where they didn't score an offensive touchdown.
It's nice to have dreams, though. It's nice to have dreams.
Yeah.
No pick 6 either. No pick 6.
All right, who
or kick 6 for that matter.
Pick 6, or anything.
Yeah.
Whichever one or you are right, we're going to give you a shout out next week. Shaun will be on the show anyway, probably. But...
I'll definitely be closer than he is.
Okay.
38-24. That's what I've been saying. Look, everybody said I was crazy whenever I said that Auburn would beat Georgia by 24. We beat them by 23. I'm telling you, we're going to beat Alabama by at least 13.
Okay.
All right, you heard it here
It
first.
depends on what teams show up. Both teams. Which ones are going to show up?
This is very
no
true.
team in this country will come to Auburn in the atmosphere that we've had it like we did in the Georgia game. Nobody's going to, and it's going to be the same atmosphere, or if not worse, for the visiting team. So nobody's going to show up in that atmosphere at that stadium and beat that team. I promise you.
It's a tough stadium, man, but it's Alabama, man. It's the Iron Bowl. Anything can happen. You know that.
Is definitely one.
Oh yeah. There's no doubt.
Auburn.
There's no doubt. But I'm telling you, they're not going to be beat that day.
Oh,
all right.
Enough.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Roll Tide and War Eagle to you.
Yeah, roll Tide.
You could have said War Eagle first, but I'll forgive you.
Smacking Off invites you to join us on the podcast. If you have an opinion on an upcoming game, some commentary on your conference, or want to roll with one of your fellow smackers on air, hit us up. You can message us at the Smacking Off or X's and O's Facebook pages, email me at maddenshannon@toothfairy.com, or call us on the Smack line, 304-508-BAIT. And as always, fuck your team.
Oh, garbage dump. Oh, garbage dump. Why are you called a garbage dump? Oh, garbage dump. Oh, garbage dump. Why are you called a garbage dump?
And we're back on Smacking Off. We are joined with our dear friend Robert Arthur, who is a
How you guys doing?
Kentucky Wildcats fan. We haven't had a Kentucky Wildcat fan on at all. Well, we brought Robert on to give us our guest picks of the week. Of course, we picked 10 games out of a hat, and we've given him a list, and we're going to talk about them. We're just going to kind of bounce around the list a little bit. Start off with, we'll just start at the top. Texas A&M and LSU. LSU is favored by 11.5 at home. How do you feel about that game?
Well, I feel it's all about LSU and whether or not they can execute on offense. If they can't execute on offense, I think Texas A&M is going to crush them. I see an upset for Texas A&M at probably 16-13.
Did you expect LSU to be? Because again, they're 8-3 right now. Me personally, I thought Coach O would have probably a little bit of a learning curve there, but he seems to be getting business handled there.
Well, absolutely, but really they've had the problem of executing on offense for a very long time. It's almost like they don't have an offensive philosophy. You know, if you can't put it up through the middle, they're not even working play action off of it. I really don't believe that LSU has had the effective quarterback in probably 10 years.
Yeah, it's been just a miserable drought down there. Let's go on to the Ohio State Buckeyes at Michigan. This is going to be a big game. Ohio State is favored by 13 at home. And a fun stat, the Buckeyes have dominated Michigan in the last 10 meetings.
That's actually wrong. I put that down wrong. Ohio State is at Michigan, so they're Ohio State is favored by 13 on the road.
Oh, yeah, you did.
That's my
you did
fault.
Right. Yeah,
That's my
I'm sorry.
bad.
I read that wrong. So
No, you read it right.
Oh,
I wrote it wrong.
oh, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say because we just had this conversation a minute ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, forgive us. We've had quite a night tonight. How do you feel about that game?
Well, I think you could throw the odds out the window when we're talking Michigan and Ohio State here, especially with it at Michigan.
Huge rivalry.
But still, I don't believe that Michigan has the horses to do it. And I'd take Ohio State 28-27 in that one.
That's a close one, though. That would be a good game to watch.
That would be a very good game to watch. Okay. Now, here is, well, and I kind of hate to put it like this because I don't think anybody really saw this at the beginning of the season. But FSU and Florida, two teams that are just an absolute dumpster fire to watch this year. FSU is favored by 3.5 on the road in that one.
Well, I wouldn't give it to FSU. I think their defense overall is slightly better than Florida State, than Florida's, but Florida has individual players on defense that are far better than anything I've seen from Florida State this year. I don't really think about it. I think Florida wins that game.
Give me a score.
I'd say something like, they're both having problems with that. I'd say 2017 Florida in an upset.
Been a huge upset last year. This year it'd be okay. Yeah, I mean, because really,
this is really the Toddy Bowl this year. It is.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, again, look at the line. The line's 3.5, and I think that may have a little bit to do with the rivalry, but also too, I mean, really, it's tough to pick a winner in this game. It really is.
And look at this. Florida's played better on the road this year.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, they really have. Except at Missouri.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have lost to Kentucky if Kentucky had not found their traditional way of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
I still don't know how Kentucky lost that game. That's still one of the big mysteries of this year.
What's that?
One of the big mysteries of this year to me is how Kentucky how they found a way to lose that game.
Well, they didn't have they weren't organized on the sideline. They didn't have players ready to come in and out. They didn't have substitutions ready. So therefore, you had two plays. You basically left a stud wide receiver wide open, and they lost the game over it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to Georgia at Georgia Tech. Georgia's favored by 12.5. At Georgia Tech, Atlanta. The Bulldogs are 7-3 versus Georgia Tech in the last 10 meetings, but they've dropped last year's game in Athens 28-27 in a close. And what do you see on this one this year?
I think it all depends on where that Georgia Tech can be effective with the option. When option teams play against the SEC, the speed on the outside and whether or not the linebackers and the ends stay home determines the whole course of the game. If Georgia plays disciplined defense, they'll crush Georgia Tech utterly, something like 40-17. But if they're undisciplined on the ends and on the outside, Georgia Tech can make it a game. I'm going to say 28-20 Georgia.
Okay. Washington State at Washington.
For the Apple Cup.
Yeah, the Apple Cup. The Huskies are favored by 10.5 at home.
This game's actually got a little bit of implication as if Washington State wins this game, they clinched the Pac North and they earned the right to play USC in the Pac championship game.
Well, actually, I like Washington State in that game. Of course, I'm a big fan of the Lavelle Arwood style offense that Mike Leach runs, and I have to say that if they can, in the Pac-12, if you can keep that team spread out, keep them tired, Washington State wins going away, 35-21.
All right,
that would be good. I like that. We got a guy that comes on the show, Tiggy, and we can give him hell over.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about the Egg Bowl for a minute. Ole Miss at Mississippi State. State's favored by 15 in this one.
Well, what do you think about that? I think Michigan State. Not Michigan State, but Mississippi State has a great run attack. If they keep that going, Ole Miss may never get the ball.
Yeah.
We're looking at a possible blowout here.
Yeah, I kind of feel that Vegas is absolutely right on that one. In fact, I think they're probably being a little bit generous towards Ole Miss.
I think whatever Ole Miss does, Mississippi State will double it.
Yeah, I agree completely. You're probably looking like a 35-14 game there.
Visit our Facebook pages, Smacking Off the Podcast fan page and Smacking Off the Podcast group page, facebook.com/group/smackoff. Facebook.com/Smackologists.
I mean, I don't consider myself a troll, really. I consider myself a
Yeah, I don't know about, bro. Not me, bro. I don't know about
That's what I
Justin.
said.
Fake goddamn women and so man, I'll beat your goddamn brains out.
Yeah, but it was still a horrible look for Oklahoma.
Dude, whatever you're smoking, buy a ton of it.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
All right, how about Clemson at South Carolina? Clemson's favored by 16 in this one.
This is an interesting game.
Yeah, the series is tied in the last 10 meetings.
Yeah.
That's strange. I wouldn't have thought that.
Well, you got Spurrier. You had that Spurrier run.
Yeah.
You know, South Carolina's a state for a lot of football talent. Probably overlooked a lot outside the South as far as how many players are coming out of there, especially down in Berkeley County around Charleston. And just a lot of great players coming out of there, and they're recruiting their own states well, especially Clemson. And Clemson's also getting players from Florida, Georgia, and even a couple from Alabama that are producing. And right now, since that's pretty well equal, you have to go to coaching. Right now, I have to give the coaching to Clemson. So I'm saying pretty good game at 35-31 for Clemson.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a closer game than what they're expecting. So you're picking South Carolina to cover and Clemson to win.
Yeah, I'm picking Clemson to win and South Carolina to cover. Absolutely.
All
right. Let's talk about, you mentioned Alabama. Let's talk about the Iron Bowl. Alabama is at Auburn, and Alabama is favored by a measly 4 points on the road, and that's probably due to the very convincing win that Auburn had over Georgia in Auburn. Not last weekend, weekend before last.
And we all know what the series is. Basically, the series is Saban against Auburn. It's 7. Alabama has won 7 of the last 10.
Well, that's tough to pick, though. I mean, Auburn's got a better team than some people give them credit for.
Absolutely.
They had some breakdowns earlier. It led some losses they really shouldn't have had. But I mean, you got to look at the program at Alabama.
You know where Alabama.
Well, I'm just going with how I really feel about it. The Alabama has a serious weakness that nobody talks about that can be exploited.
What's that?
If you can slow down the running game at Alabama, right, and keep the ball yourself, right, and force Jalen Hurts to win the game, then you can win that football game. If you force Alabama to pass the ball, and you can contain Jalen Hurts, it's game over. Auburn wins, but I don't know if they can do that. To do that, they have to keep the ball on offense, Auburn, control the ball on offense, control the clock so that their defense can be fresh. Otherwise, the one thing that does make Jalen Hurts great is he can run out of trouble anytime he wants. If their line is dominant, then it's still going to be a great game, but I still believe Alabama wins 28-21.
Okay.
All right, good deal. And I believe the last one we have left.
No, there's 2.
No, excuse me. We've got 2 left. Notre Dame at Stanford. Stanford's favored by 1. This is virtually a pick'em game.
Well, I've never been a fan of Notre Dame. When SEC teams waive contracts to a team for 75 years and they ignore it, that tells me they're hiding from real competition. Right? I mean, so it's hard for me to give any respect to Notre Dame. I never have respected them. I go all the way back to Ara Parsegian, watching them being overrated in the polls years after year. And they win a semi-significant game, and it somehow puts them in the college football playoffs. My dislike for Notre Dame says Stanford 21-17.
I don't think that would really be a shocker. Not with the way Love's playing out there. I know you've seen Bryce Love.
Oh yeah, and look, they got a running game at Stanford.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
An amazing running game, I might add.
Averaging 10 yards a run, Bryce Love is.
Yeah, if you control the football, all this modern spread and all that becomes a catch-up offense. When you're forced to throw the ball, when people are keying on it, right, next thing you know, you have turnovers. And that's when Notre Dame has trouble, it's because they're forced to throw the football. When you force them to throw the football, you create turnovers, puts the ball in running team's hands. I say Stanford.
Right.
All right. Now, we've got, and this is a game I know you're dying to talk about, Louisville's at Kentucky. Louisville's favored by 10.
Oh, that's a horrible line on that game. If you look at recent history, even on Kentucky's most down years, that when Louisville has won, they won by 4 points.
The last 10 meetings, they're tied 5-5.
Yeah, and if you look at Louisville, they got Lamar Jackson, and he's a miracle kind of player. But if you really look at the team, who else do they have?
Nothing.
I really believe
nobody.
What's that?
Nobody.
They've got nothing.
Yeah,
they got nothing. So if you look at Kentucky, overall, I believe the talent level, and that's going to sound preposterous, but I believe the talent level on both sides of the ball is slightly higher at Kentucky.
I
don't believe they have any skill players that are anywhere near the level of Lamar Jackson.
Right.
But on every side of the ball, especially on the lines, Kentucky has more talent. And the problem with Kentucky in this game is tight end's hurt, may or may not play. Even if he does, he'll be limited. Edwards, number 7, the strong safety's had a good year this year, even though he ran away from tackles against Georgia. See, that's how Kentucky lost to Georgia. In the second half and third and fourth quarter, Edwards comes to the game. He's already hurt. He can't take the hits from the running backs. He starts running away from tackles. Next thing you know, you can't arm tackle against teams like Georgia. But Louisville don't have players that can run the football like Georgia does. They don't have a power game. I say Kentucky 28-27. Take the Governor's Cup home.
All right, good deal. Well, Robert, we do appreciate your picks, and you're going to be back for the bowl season to talk about some more Kentucky Wildcats, I hope.
Oh, I do. I hope they win that game. I believe that'll put Kentucky in the Outback Bowl. It's a great season for us. Even if we win against Louisville, that's 8-4. They haven't done that since 1984. I think it puts us in the Outback Bowl. If we lose a game, we're in the Liberty Bowl. It's the also-ran bowl. We all know that. But for Kentucky, we consider that success in a rebuilding program.
Understood. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, too. Thank you.
Each week, Smacking Off presents our Life Championship. This week's Life Championship brought to you by Bad Month Tires. You don't have the swag for Goodyear, so aim for the middle with Bad Month Tires, the most economical tire money can buy.
The Butch Jones Annual Life Championship Top 10.
10.
Auburn,
9.
Georgia,
8.
Stanford,
7.
TCU,
6.
Oklahoma State,
5.
USC,
4.
Penn State,
3.
Ohio State,
2.
Michigan,
1.
Washington.
No, whoa. Okay, all right, fellas, time out. Come on, give me a second here. Fellas, pause. Just give me a second, man. Pause. Pause. Give me a second. Let me pause. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it's all about here at Smacking Off.
I don't know that. I mean, they were able to crack a few runs in the running game. Taylor got out a little bit there in the fourth quarter, and then we weren't able to get any big chunks in the running game. And we had.
That's something, Jimmy, as you've been around long enough, the next man's got to step up, and that's an expectation. But obviously, we've been hit pretty hard there this year at that position. I think it's very similar to how a year ago the defense
to start faster. So that's on me. That's on the offense as a whole. Just can't put our defense in that situation.
When you went out there for that last drive, was there a sense of excitement at what you guys were about to accomplish?
No. I thought everything was going well and got off schedule there first couple downs, and then we just didn't get the coverage we wanted on fourth down, and which the ball was hot. It's obviously hot.
Loser's Corner.
And we're back with the Smacking Off Square Table discussion. We're here with 4 smackers tonight. We've changed it up just a little bit, but we've got a few familiar faces. Representing the Clemson Tigers, we have a brand new smacker on tonight, Mr. Dane Kelly. Dane, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. I hope you are.
Oh, I'm doing absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. We
Awesome.
also have our dear friend, Mr. Timothy Ray Bailey from Oklahoma. What's
How's it
up?
going?
Living the dream. We also have, we actually had a Miami smacker lined up. He had some technical difficulties. We'll have him on soon. But since, he kind of knows a little bit about Miami, we're going to let Shaun Devine talk about it. Shaun, how you doing tonight?
Hey, it's a pleasure as always, gentlemen.
Hey, it won't be here in a little bit.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it.
He's our resident Notre Dame connection, but
yes, he's our Notre Dame hookup.
But I like to consider myself, the college football everyman. I watch all the games, you know that. And I did attend the Wisconsin-Michigan game this past weekend, so any questions you have about Wisconsin, I can answer.
Oh, we're definitely going to bring them into the conversation. And we also have our dear friend, Mr. Shaun Cagle. Shaun, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Man, can't complain a bit. All right. Again, since Shaun's, kind of eating a little bit of crow tonight, we'll let him go ahead and get started first. Let's talk about let's talk about a few things. You want to talk about some Notre Dame?
I think we're good on Notre Dame. I think we're trying to get out a win.
let's talk about some Miami then.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about Miami since we all got a good close look at them this past weekend.
Yeah, well, the one thing I understand about Miami is Rozier, their quarterback, was playing with a heavy heart. His father had just had a stroke. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
No, I haven't heard that.
Had no idea.
And yes, actually, he learned about that about an hour before the Notre Dame game. But now his father's in recovery from the stroke. So, big win over Notre Dame last week, and a little trap game against Virginia, a very game Virginia team who literally gave their all to try to win that game. And so, Miami, to their credit, and I hate Miami, but to their credit, in the fourth quarter, they played their ass off, came back, put the points on the board, and in that game, 44-31, I think it was. So, you have to talk to Miami. They proved themselves.
Yeah, they most definitely did. We're going to move on to the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, I'll be quite frank. I was expecting Oklahoma to have a strong finish this year, but I think I kind of thought Lincoln Riley might not be up to the task to actually bring it back home to Norman. But man, he's got those boys balling. However, speaking of balling, let's talk about Mr. Baker Mayfield's performance over Kansas over the weekend. What was that about? We're talking about fucking Kansas. You know what I'm saying? Ohio State, I'll give him that, but Kansas, come on.
The planting of the flag. The planting of the flag at Ohio State to me is not really a big deal. It's not.
No,
even
it
really
was the planting of that Oklahoma dick and the Ohio State ass. That was what the big story was that weekend. Fuck that flag.
What happened at Kansas? I do want to give a little bit of perspective. The handshake. There was this handshake snub, which I don't really think it's disrespect, but I don't really think it's that big of a deal.
I mean, again, okay, well then fuck you. I'm going to go out and destroy your team like we do every year,
Now, the cheap shots is, I think, what got through Baker. He got hit in the head several times way after the plays were over.
Probably not some fucking sense into him.
There was one time where Dorrance Armstrong actually held Baker down, and the OU right tackle Bobby Evans had to pick him up and throw him off.
So there was some shit going on during the game. They were mixing it up during the game. That's not necessarily what the camera was focused on. It was just that one gesture that Baker did toward the end of the game.
It's not cool, to be honest, for him to do that. This stuff happens in every football game, though. People need to understand the context and the perspective of that. Football, this is what happens in football. There's a lot worse that happens in football than that.
Well, this is true.
Said, Baker's a Heisman. He's the winner. He has the trophy. Already has his name on it.
Oh my
A
God.
lot of folks are saying that. Now look, I gotta say this though before we go any further. I gotta say this: Oklahoma has decided to not start Baker Mayfield in the West Virginia game. Now, of course, not start means that he may sit out for a few plays and then get thrown in there when they're suddenly West Virginia kicks their first field goal and they're up 3-0. Then suddenly they're going to freak out and Baker's going to come out and grab his balls and take care of business. But I have to say this. There is a chance, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out. This is my prediction for the week, that Oklahoma may decide to go ahead and sit him out for the entire quarter. And the reason being is, and this is just follow me for half a second. The reason being is the Joe Mixon incident. The Joe Mixon incident, long after the fact, even years after the fact, when he was headed to the NFL and wasn't even playing for Oklahoma anymore, was a big deal with a lot of the rest of the national audience. Because they felt that Bob Stoops should have been a little bit more harsher in that penalty when he beat the fuck out of that girl. Now, having said all that, and we've talked about that on this show, and God knows we've all talked about it online at some point in time. Forget that story. That story's old and dried up. But I think public perception is going to throw Baker Mayfield on that bench, and this is why I say that. Has anybody seen, I don't know, the rushing defense for West Virginia this year?
They're off.
Just about damn near ranked one. I think they were ranked 96th in the nation.
Nightmare for West Virginia.
Oklahoma can probably handle West Virginia without Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, well, for the entire game. And again, if they sit him out for the entire game, well, everybody's going to praise Lincoln Riley as doing the right thing in this, that, and the other. But as soon as I saw that stat, I was like, yeah, I know what's going on here.
What,
Will Greer's out.
Has anybody heard if Will Greer's out for this game?
No, he's out.
Dude, did you see the finger?
Okay.
That is
4 to 6 weeks, so he's done for the year.
Oh man, it was part of the skin was just gone. Yeah. Like it was just gone.
Oh god.
Oh man,
that's
dude,
terrible.
it was brutal.
Finger is mangled.
Oh. And it's a throwing hand. I played quarterback. That finger's too important. That's one of
if
your
that's his
legs.
throwing hand, that's also his jerking hand too. So he's going to have to find somebody to help him out with
He's
that.
He's going to have to find another way. I'll say this about the Baker incident a little bit more. ESPN runs a delay, as does every broadcast.
Whoa, somebody at a drive-thru or something? What the fuck is that? What are y'all doing?
All right, who's going to do Chick-fil-A?
Hey, give me. If you're Chick-fil-A, give me that the chicken nuggets and give me that superfood side. That kale salad. Oh my god, it's so good. Fucking milkshake. I'm trying to lose weight.
All right, Shaun Cagle.
Yes. Wait a minute. Wait. I think Timothy was trying to make his final point.
One second, Shaun.
About that, because again, I threw it out there. We got to give him a chance.
Okay. Well, ESPN and every major network, when they broadcast a game, they run a delay so that way they can prevent things like that from being seen. And I'm really kind of concerned as to why, we've seen some serious bias towards Oklahoma from ESPN with D.D. Westbrook last year and other situations.
Yeah.
It bothers me that they didn't use their delay to prevent that from being shown. I feel like they would have done that had it happened to a guy like Cam Newton or a guy like, Greg McElroy, who flipped off out.
Yeah, but I think
it's all about the ratings, baby.
Well, and I also think I share the same sentiment that most of the nation does about Baker Mayfield, and that's fuck Baker Mayfield.
Visit our Facebook pages, Smacking Off the Podcast fan page and Smacking Off the Podcast group page, facebook.com/group/smackoff, facebook.com/smackologists.
Sorry, it's the same. It's the same reason that everybody says fuck Alabama. Baker Mayfield's fucking balling right now. He's balling. He's had a little bit of off the field, troubles, but nothing too salacious. Running from the police drone. So there's that. I
He
don't
got
know.
tackled cold by that fat boy.
Oh man, that fat boy ruined his ass.
Yeah, I mean, like he's done a better job than the SEC defenders on him. I remember
Absolutely,
Auburn
man.
last year had no
Florida would give their left nut for him right now.
Yeah. There wouldn't be nothing left in Florida.
That being said, I think Oklahoma as a whole, the team as a unit, very good team this year. The defense is getting a lot better. The last 2.5 games, they've given up only 37 points on 35 drives. That's big.
That is big. For Oklahoma and a Big 12 defense, yeah, that's huge.
7 turnovers if you include turnovers on downs in the last 10 quarters. So they're getting turnovers in 70% of the quarters they're playing in over the last 10 quarters. So things are improving. The Oklahoma defense is getting better.
It's funny that when I watch Oklahoma now, like right this second, and throughout most of the trajectory of their season, they kind of remind me, and nobody sneer when I say this, but they kind of remind me of the Auburn national championship game with Cam. They really do. They look like that at times. The defense bends a little bit, but it doesn't break. Solid quarterback all day, every day. And again, I don't know. I'm keeping my fingers crossed because, quite frankly, I would absolutely kill for a Bama-Oklahoma matchup in the CFP.
I think that's what everyone wants to see. But other than teams that are, I think that'd be the best for the Raiders. But
absolutely.
That's going to be good for Oklahoma once they leave Big 12 play and go into the postseason. They're not going to face 35 drives in 10 quarters. That's an absurd number. I mean, that's crazy. 35 drives
Oklahoma
in 10
play
quarters.
defense first.
Shaun Cagle, I heard that Alabama has a game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, we got a small little game coming up.
What do you think?
Are we going to see
Auburn's overrated a little bit?
Yeah, are we going to see the Auburn?
They got holes in their defense big time.
Are we going to see the Auburn team that showed up against Georgia? Or are we going to see the Auburn team that showed up against LSU? Or excuse me, it didn't show up.
I think we're going to see the Auburn team that showed up against Mercer, to tell you the truth.
Woo! That's what I heard right there, boy.
Wow.
24-10. They gave them a run for their
I
money.
guess at least Louisiana Monroe's a group of 5.
Tell me this.
Yeah.
I want to get everybody's opinion on this.
Whoa. Didn't St. Nick lose to Louisiana Monroe?
Man, that was like 40 years ago. Next.
Yeah, it wasn't 40 years.
Yeah, that was the first year.
Yeah, that was a decade ago.
I want to get an opinion on this.
The Oklahoma team reminds me of 92 Miami.
92 Miami?
Yeah.
92 Miami.
Alabama. Has Alabama clinched the CFP if they don't get blown out at Auburn? What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they do either way. It's a close game or they blow them out. I think they've clinched it.
What's everybody else think?
Their butts kicked, which I doubt will happen. I don't think they can get in because their body of work isn't that good. Their schedule isn't good enough for them to not win their division and get in.
So what do you think?
I agree.
Badly.
You think if it's a close game that Bama has clinched?
I agree as well.
They have an opportunity if it's a close game because the way Auburn's playing right now, they look the part. Auburn is the scariest team right now. They're the hottest team besides my Sooners right now.
Look, man, I said this all season long. Auburn has been the only concern that I've had as an Alabama fan on our schedule all season. That's before the season even started, the only game that I was really truly concerned about was Auburn. Not negating or any other team's performances. I mean, look what Mississippi State was able to do last weekend.
Dane,
it's the Iron Bowl. I mean, before they even went through the season and beat Georgia, did what they did, you already know the Iron Bowl is going to be a good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Alabama's not as good as the last couple of years. They're still very good, but they're not. The depth isn't what it was. So you know that when Auburn has the best roster this year, in my opinion, in the SEC, the problem for them is coaching. For example, Gus Malzahn made his best play call of the year up 33-10. Why would you do that? That's so stupid.
Agree, man. This guy's killing it. I don't know who he is, but he's got it now.
Dane.
I mean, crazy.
Dane, are you still there?
I'm still here, guy, and I'm really
all right. Let's talk about some Clemson.
Yeah, we really need to talk about Clemson. Clemson made kind of a controversial bump up in the rankings, and I say slightly controversial because of some of the other teams looming below them. What's your thought on that?
Well, I thought it was justified. I didn't think it was controversial at all.
I really didn't either. Yeah.
I think the committee spokesperson pretty well laid it out after that was announced. as to the reasoning for that, and that was that Clemson had more wins against Power 5 winning record teams than anybody else in the top 25, let alone the top 10. So
I mean, a really brutal schedule.
Okay.
I thought it was legitimate.
May I chime in?
Come on, baby.
Sure.
Clemson had 6 wins against teams with winning records. Oklahoma had 5. Clemson had 7 wins against teams with 500 or better record. Oklahoma has 7. Now they both have 6. Okay, with Kansas State winning. Secondly, Oklahoma had beaten 3 teams in the top 13 by double digits. NC State outgained Clemson and outplayed them in a game that they won narrowly, and that team's outside of the top 15. I'm not hating on Clemson, but the body of work this year that Clemson and Oklahoma have done, Oklahoma definitely outweighs what Clemson has done. The only argument they had is the defense and the Kelly Bryant injury. In the Iowa State game, Oklahoma lost 6 starters in that game, and they said they weren't even aware of an injury. That bothered me.
Well, but at the same time,
I can see your point there.
I also blame Oklahoma for making Iowa State look good, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Iowa State is an also ran, and y'all should have handled it. You should have handled that game.
I really think, and I've been saying this for the past couple of years, even before Oklahoma lost to Iowa State, I think Matt Campbell, the coach at Iowa State, is probably the most underrated head coach in the country. Like, I really could see him. I mean, people are going to think I'm nuts here, but I could see him taking over at an Alabama or at a, I don't know, Oklahoma or.
Oh, well, there's about 8 different
really
jobs
big-time
in
program.
the SEC. He would be more
Matt
than
Campbell's
welcome
as good
at.
as it gets. Bill Belichick wanted him on his staff.
I'm telling you.
Is phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
And he's done more with less than anybody else in the country, for sure.
I mean, he brought in.
And I mean, Iowa State, the game that they beat the Sooners, I believe they were playing with a third-string quarterback that had never thrown a collegiate pass before. So, I mean, to be able to pull that out of your ass,
yeah, that's
you got to be pretty good with that as a nose.
Also, he usually has a fat dip in, too, which is legit.
Guys, we
fatty in that dude's cheek, you know it.
Yeah.
Jesus
Christ, that hurt. I'm still gonna have it.
I'm the greatest
No, whoa. Okay, all right, fellas, time out. Come on, give me a second here. Fellas, Paul, just give me a second, man. Paul, give me a second. Let me, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what it's all about here at Smacking Off.
We've got the new CFP coming. I want to get all of you guys to chime in on where you think this is going to fall. Let's start with Shaun Cagle.
It's really tough. I'm thinking it's probably going to stay basically the same.
Bama.
I don't really see much movement on that. The committee's really not really big on Oklahoma. I've noticed that the past 3 weeks. The body of work, like you're talking about, the committee's not seeing that body of work. They've left them outside of it 2 weeks in a row. I was really surprised they snuck into 4 this time. I figured Wisconsin would. I think maybe Wisconsin could possibly jump them when it comes out tomorrow.
Okay, so you're thinking Bama 1, Miami 2, Clemson 3, and possibly Wisconsin 4.
Yeah, it's a toss-up between Oklahoma and Wisconsin, but it's hard to say which way the committee will go.
All right, Sean Devine.
Yeah, so my top, I'm going to give it, my 6 here.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
That's fine.
If I may. So I have Alabama number 1. They're unbeaten, and we're gonna obviously find out what they're made of this weekend. No disrespect any Alabama fans on here, but this is a litmus test, and if they win, then they're definitely the number 1 team in the country. Number 2, I got Miami. I know they had to get through the trap game of Virginia. They got another trap game this week against Pittsburgh. Up in Pittsburgh, it's going to be cold, and we know how Miami deals with cold. It's not very well. So I got Miami 2. I got Clemson 3 for their body of work. Irregardless of that game up in Syracuse, Clemson has impressed. And then 4, I got Wisconsin. They're unbeaten, and their defense really showed me a lot. They held Michigan in the second half to 49 total yards of offense. Very impressive. 5, I got Auburn. Auburn's looking like the most dangerous team in the country right now. And then, albeit I know Arkansas is putting feelers out for Gus, bringing him home, but that's a bit of a distraction. And then 6, I got Oklahoma for, and the reason I got Oklahoma 6 is a loss at home to Iowa State. Bad loss, particularly since Iowa beat Iowa State and Iowa got run over by Wisconsin. And then, and number 2, you can't beat Oklahoma State 65-58 or whatever the hell the damn score was at the end of that game, and Oklahoma State goes out and shits the bed, the next couple of weeks. That's my top 6 right there.
All right. We're definitely going to have to let Timothy follow that up.
Yeah, Timothy, you have the floor.
Well, first of all, the Oklahoma offense this year is one of the greatest offenses we've ever seen in college football history. I understand people are really hung up on the defense, but this offense might be better than the 2008 offense. So to have them at 6 behind a 2-loss Auburn team is pretty disrespectful. I hope they do that. Goodness. I hope they do that, and I hope Baker sees it. That would be stupid.
He's definitely going to grab his dick on that one, isn't he?
I would love it. But my top 4 is different from what the committee is going to be. The committee doesn't follow the things that they say is their protocol. The committee's probably going to go 1 Alabama, 2 Clemson, 3 Miami, 4 Wisconsin, 5 OU. If they followed their guidelines, which they say is strength of schedule, strength of record, the eye test, which Oklahoma clearly has been passing in recent weeks. And
remember, offense doesn't win championships; defense wins championships.
That's what they say. But
That's exactly
have
right.
Have you watched the recent championship games? Because it's not really been the defense that's been winning championships recently.
Last year, it was all about the offense.
Got them there, though.
Defense has got them there. That's fair. But you better be able to. A defense isn't going to win you a championship if you can't score. And that's the most important thing right now in college football is being able to score the football, because when the top teams play each other, points are going to happen, period, because of talent. It's just how it is. I mean, look at
unless it's Ohio State versus Clemson or Michigan State versus Alabama or
right.
Well, let's look at Oklahoma the last time they played Clemson.
Washington versus
Can
Alabama.
we just leave the Big Ten out? Can we just write them off?
I mean, yes, you can look at the Clemson Oklahoma game. I personally believe that was an outlier, because in the first series of the second half, Mixon and Pirine both get hurt when they were winning the game at the time. I do believe Clemson was the better team that year. Yes, next man up. But when you're losing your top 2 dudes, that matters. I mean, if you guys lost Wayne Gallman and Watson's ability to run against Oklahoma, you guys couldn't throw against the Sooners. How are you guys going to win? I mean, don't be silly.
I'm not a Clemson.
We would have just played our punter at quarterback.
Your punter kept you in it in the first half, regardless. That's over with. When top teams play each other, points are going to happen. It is what it is. The offensive scheme in college football right now is far surpassed defensive scheme. That's just how it is at this point.
All right, well, let's give
your defense can't be hot butter.
Well, true. But let's give Dane Kelly a chance to go ahead and make his picks for the top 4 coming up. Dane, you have
well, these are not my picks. These are what I believe the playoff committee will choose.
Right.
I've got Bama number 1, Clemson number 2, Miami number 3, and Oklahoma number 4, with Wisconsin and Auburn the first 2 out. I don't think they'll make any changes. It was tune-up Saturday. Nobody played anybody worth a damn. Nobody lost. Nothing
now, let
really
me ask
crazy
you,
happens.
Let me suppose this, though, just really quick.
I guess you could give Wisconsin credit for beating Michigan, but Michigan's been fucking garbage all year.
Yeah, Michigan's bullshit.
Because they don't have a quarterback.
But real quick though, where do you think? What do all 4 of you think happens to Auburn if they happen to beat Alabama this weekend, which is a very real possibility?
If they beat Alabama,
yes,
I believe they're in.
They'll probably move up to 5, and Alabama will fall to 6.
Fair enough.
For now, because they have two losses. 2 losses matters. They'll get in. They control their own destiny.
If Auburn beats Alabama, they still have to beat Georgia.
Yeah, they'll have to do that. And look, for them to beat Alabama and to beat Georgia twice, pretty much all in like the 3-4 week stretch. I mean,
with their coach's best play call already on tape against the team they'll rematch.
Yeah, that's big time.
It's just one play, man. Let it go.
Touchdown. They just took a touchdown off the board in a game they might need it. That mattered.
I mean, if
That's
Auburn
7.
beats Alabama and then beats Georgia again in the SEC championship game, they're in.
Yeah. They're the best team in the country if they do that.
The best, easily one of the best, or at least, and the thing is, they may not be the exact best, but they'll be the best at that moment with those late wins, and that's why it's so important to have those big wins late.
Yeah, they'll have some confidence in their hip pocket, and Stidham's a fantastic quarterback. That's the one thing that we're not talking about. If you look at the top 6 or 7 teams, the only team besides Oklahoma that has a great quarterback is Auburn. I mean, Hurts is a good quarterback. He's not bad, but that matters too. I mean,
is Mayfield really a great quarterback though?
Well, Mayfield's a good quarterback. I don't think that.
You don't think Mayfield's a great quarterback?
I think he's a great college quarterback.
Yeah, he's Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, he's not going to be. He's going to be hot garbage when he goes pro.
Oh, man.
He's undersized.
All right, this is something that we can continue next week on the square table discussion.
We're definitely going to have this conversation next week on the square table discussion.
Yeah, but is he going to be able to see guys open?
Well, he's been doing it at Oklahoma. All his linemen are 6'5" plus.
Hey,
I don't think they're going to be running that kind of offense.
Hey, guys.
They're not going to be running that kind of offense in the pros, buddy.
No, the passes you're pretty high. I mean, look at the passes he throws. They're NFL caliber throws. He makes reads in his offense. This isn't just like Howard, Texas.
We're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Estamos experimentando dificultades técnicas. Espera.
Experienza tecnica difficoltati duserant placere stabile.
私たちは技術的な困難を経験しています。待ってください。
We'll return to our regularly scheduled program in one moment.